BlackSky is using AI to track what's happening on Earth from space, and investors are finally starting to wake up. And this is one of the stocks that could be the most overlooked AI-driven space analytics company. And if you've been asking about our daily live trading sessions, which we had some requests about reopening lifetime access in StockMate, well, I don't know how long we'll keep it open, but for now, it's available. The link is the second one in the description if you want to trade with us live at market open every day. When it comes to BlackSky, we've seen three things to focus on for the stock, which are the market that they're in, the analysis of what we could go through, the financials, the news, and the charts, as well as the margins for profit and the plan is what we're going to jump into here. BlackSky has a focus on space analytics, and we've seen them sell down from IPO down to as low as $3.86 a share, and they've started to recover recently, making a run at the beginning of the summer as high as $28 before selling back down now to about $16 a share. Now, if we just take a look at why we're following them, they're in the space tech market. So they're growing fast as a result of the tailwinds we've seen with space tech. Their financials are one thing, but really where they've had the most success is building out partnerships with government agencies as well as different international partnerships for their kind of planet labs approach, where they have this overlook of everything down on Earth. They launched these satellites recently with Rocket Lab, and you can see the company overview: real-time space-based intelligence company that delivers on-demand high-frequency imagery, analytics, and high-frequency monitoring of the most critical and strategic locations, economic assets, and events in the world. When it comes to AI, and we think about where things are going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, being able to have these types of things that track, for example, all of the ships down on Earth, the oil tankers, how is the shipping going there? Or when you look at some of their main focuses with their Gen 3 satellites, the cars down on Earth, or even the people down on Earth, the airplanes that are flying through, they have AI-enabled analytics with their Spectra platform that has extremely high definition imagery of things down on Earth. You could probably be able to make out a license plate for how good these images look, maybe even a person's face. And one thing to note about their recent news that they've come out with, they have had some international partnerships and some Department of Space partnerships. So if you look at the news, look at where they're offering the most value to the marketplace and why they could potentially grow in the future. You have this 2-year early access agreement with an international buyer for 35 centimeter imagery. You have multi-million-dollar contracts for new international defense customers, along with national geospatial intelligence agencies that announce new contracts under the Luno program. They also are doing imagery support for Ukraine, an early access agreement by BlackSky. When it comes to their press releases that they've come out with as well, we have seen some recent momentum around the contract side of things, from 7-figure deals that they've had for fully automated non-Earth imaging missions, or 2-year Gen 3 early access agreements. This is where they're starting to see a lot of momentum with, next phase of U.S. Navy optical inter-satellite link research contract to advance Gen 3 communications. All these things, they just come down to really providing value to the market with these satellites. Now, when it comes to where they've had the most momentum, they recently launched with Rocket Lab. You can see the end-to-end space company Rocket Lab. They have some really great developments over there. I have a friend that works at the company as well, near here in LA, where I'm currently staying for the next few days. And satellites launched by their Electron rocket, 238. So Rocket Lab is launching satellites, and one of their main missions that seems to be recurring is there with BlackSky. So you can see BlackSky launched with Rocket Lab earlier this year. So that's why BlackSky has seen some momentum. So into the summer, June 3rd, they launched Gen 3 satellites, and you can see that there is a whole constellation of satellites they recently launched. And it says that they have not only had 4 Electron launches booked by BlackSky to deploy the Gen 3 satellites to orbit this year, the 10th overall launch for the company, and making Electron the most prolific launcher for their constellation to date. So Rocket Lab's in a good position, and we see Rocket Lab growing tremendously. They're up to $50 a share when we look at our space tech stocks. They're almost $50 a share. They were up 2% today, and they were just at $3 a share back when we got into them in 2023, 2024, and they've absolutely crushed it over the last year. But one of the things to do in markets is reverse engineer. What market is growing? Where is it growing? You see the real world usage with them, but you also see big revenue starting to come in for space companies. And that's where you reverse engineer from the big company down to the smaller companies. You see BlackSky launching their satellites. So BlackSky, from a financial perspective, they're at $571 million market cap. They got about 340 employees. But where it's interesting is, while their market cap is still relatively small, around 572 million, they've had a balance sheet increase. So you could take a look at their balance sheet. Has got up to 310 million in total assets, with liabilities at 224. They're up 127% on their cash. You could also see the revenue, while it's down year over year, they have seen from the quarter over quarter basis to the year over year, you can see the year over year from 2020 to 2024 and into 2025, they have seen increases in revenue and just surpassed the $100 million per year revenue point. So for a space company, they're actually making pretty good progress to see the revenue coming in, even though they haven't really been in an industry. Notoriously, space companies haven't made a lot of money. They're continuing to make more money right now. So BlackSky, while they have more wins in the contracts, the news looks fairly good. They have multi-million-dollar deals that come in pretty often. And then they also might have a lot of hype. You could see a lot of articles here where they talk about maybe a little more hype than you'd like to see, but there's still, with the valuation there on the financials, in a good place. So when we look at the news, it looks pretty good. The catalysts for them right now are continuing to get government contracts and working with international agencies. And then when you look at the, let's say, institutional holdings, you could look at the institutional ownership from NASDAQ. In NASDAQ, they got 52% institutional ownership. Increased positions seem to be up. And you see some big investors like BlackRock, along with Vanguard and State Street, noticeably increasing their shares that they hold in this company. So total value about 299 million there from institutional holding, which makes up a little bit more than half of their total outstanding shares. And then you have their recent charts, and this is where things get interesting. So you got institutional attracting value. They're still under $1 billion. Most space companies are going to be more than $1 billion market cap, so it's not like they haven't been there before, but that is what we're looking at here. When it comes to the chart, we do see this level where they've found a bottom, more or less, around $8 a share, and then made that big run up into $28 a share, got rejected, and now they're back down to this previous resistance level, which oftentimes acts as a support, around $16 a share. Really, $15.50 is where they found their support. Now, with this recent trend, they are holding below the EMA, that blue line, which, if they're going to be bearish, that level is going to be a level at which, if they're holding below, it's bearish. If they're pushing above and holding below, holding above that EMA, then they are going to be bullish. Now, we do see some bearish momentum, but looking to recover potentially and use that 1550 support. We see kind of a double bounce here. See if we can get a better look. Kind of a double bounce here around 1550, where potentially they're looking to reverse direction back up into that $18 range. Now, the $18 price point, if they can hold this 1550 range, we're looking at about a 15% margin for profit. for them to jump back into those levels. Now, they have seen some sell-offs, but in this trend that they've sold off in, there's also something to note, which is that they are at a support, not just in the the greater previous resistance, but you also have this trend here where they've been downtrending, kind of. You see this downtrend, and this is actually where they potentially would reverse if they were going to make this run back up into that $18 price point. You can see they've been selling down, pressure is down, but they're looking to break back above into this $16.50 range, and that's why we have them on our radar. So the margins for profit are fairly large, again, 15% in the near term, and that's here. If we do see any previous levels like we saw earlier this year, they'd be at $22 to potentially $27 a share, which is very bullish, and that would indicate about a 75% increase from their current levels. So BlackSky is one I personally invest in. I have some long-term positions in the company. We're up about 24%. At one point, we were up over 100% on our position. And then we see what we're looking for in a potential shorter-term trade. Whenever we're planning for profit, we're looking for a good deal. It's always, I would say 99% of the time, we're not going to buy companies short-term that we wouldn't want to invest in for the long term. So when we're looking at this swing, we're looking at a swing of a company of integrity that's increasing their revenues year over year, that's finding more contracts, that has a pretty disciplined balance sheet, as we just went over, so that the financials don't look so bad. You can see that balance sheet. They're increasing their total assets, definitely quarterly, and then annually they've seen some increases over the last 2 years, and actually 3 years. But they're really increasing that balance sheet, so the financials look not so bad. And then the dynamic part of this company is that they are not just U.S. government contracts. They're working with commercial companies. They're working with other governments that are in other places to give them that aerial satellite imagery that's AI powered. And I think with them using the AI powered analytics, it does position them in a growing market where the potential is most likely going to be really good in the long term. You're going to see this company in the long term. And that's why I have long-term positions. We've seen them build that market cap. But in the short term, they have been downtrending a little bit. They found this support for the third time really in the last month at this 1550 price point. And the near term trade that we'd be looking at would be about a 15% margin for profit, again, up into that $18 range. Why we would look at it now as opposed to past couple of weeks is just the downward pressure was pretty great over the last few weeks. Now we see them get down to these supports, really validate them, really start to push back up. You can see again with that moving average where they're, when they're holding below, it's bearish. When they're above it, it's bullish. And you see they've been holding below it for about 2 weeks now. And now it's looking to test and make that run above that moving average again, which we would see a reversal potentially into that level of about $18. So trend and direction near term over the last few months has been kind of down, but you see it start to find that support, consolidate, and look for a potential reversal on BlackSky. So we'll be watching it closely this week, definitely over the next few weeks, as we see new news come out around not just AI spending and initiatives from the government, but you see deals getting signed by NASA in the hundreds of millions or billions of dollars right now that are showing signs of growth for the space tech industry. That's why Rocket Lab, just a year ago, it was around $3 a share. Now it's at $46 a share. So that's why you see space companies grow. SpaceX has a current market cap of $250 billion, which puts it, in a top tier position as a private tech company. And I think a lot of people wanting to invest in space tech, if they can't get that access to the private company of SpaceX, they're looking at companies like Rocket Lab. They're looking at the AI driven satellites like BlackSky, and that's why the market looks fairly good for the space tech right now. The other thing we see is the RSI is looking oversold. MACD looks fairly oversold, trying to cross over and potentially, as we mentioned, make that break here. So what we look for when we see a push back above this $6 or $16.50 range here, that would be more indication we are seeing that reversal take place. Otherwise, we could be patient and see how it holds again on this 1550 price point. So we'll continue to watch throughout the week. If you are interested in space tech companies, or you're struggling to get the analysis that you want on companies in quantum, or let's say AI, we just went to a quantum computing conference this last week. We're going to space tech conferences. I've talked with BlackSky personally. I've been to a SpaceX sponsored event in Colorado Springs, which we got an awesome media pass, valued at, we're talking thousands of dollars for those passes that we've gotten as a result of some of the insights we share on YouTube. We get sponsored for the media passes oftentimes, and we share those insights in Stockmates. We have our daily live trading sessions. You have the Oracle reporting this week, along with any tech companies. When they're reporting, we have the reports there, pre-market or after hours, when they're reporting, and what to expect target wise. So if you ever want those insights along with the daily live trading sessions, would love to see you there, as we just reopened lifetime access. That's right, lifetime access to the recurring Monday through Friday market open live sessions in the second link in the description below. And you even get a free t-shirt that I'll send over to you anywhere in the world. If I earned your thumbs up, definitely hit the like button. Do consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video.